I was reading an article on Invesco. It came from Time magazine. Thornberger was the writer. He wrote about how this guy named Hilzendogger's brother was murdered in 1992 in Point Blank, Texas, and how there was a big spill over the DNA evidence of one hair. Well, the two individuals involved in the murder was a guy named Jones, who was convicted and executed for the murder, and then Dixon, who was his accomplice. Both of them were in Kansas Penitentiary, and both of them were convicted of murder prior to this incident. And it was a Blatchford armed robbery. Well, Jones' brother wanted the DNA of the hair tested to see if his dad was an actual murderer or just an accomplice. At first, Hilzendogger said he didn't want to kill the wrong guy, but after a while, he went with the fact that both men were involved in his brother's murder, and that both men had murdered people before, so both men should have been executed. If neither man were ever released from prison, would Hilzendogger's brother still be alive? So that's where we go to, if society should have stricter penalties and follow through on sentences for prisoners, and this will aid our society. Prisoners should have penalties that fit the crime, and then if they can't conform in prison, how are we going to release them so they can be a nuisance to society? I will start with the old cliche that the punishment must fit the crime. Murderers without a doubt, and do not have, or have admitted to the crime, need to be executed and stop wasting the taxpayers' money. Parisi of New Jersey Journal says it takes $27,000 to house a prisoner for a year that's on death row. It only takes $400 for 1,000 rounds of 5.56 NATO ammunition. 1,000 rounds would take a lot of people off of death row real quick. And you talked about the humanity of it. We're not killing them humanely. It's not humane when they kill someone else and then take something else from people's family. So why should we conform to them when we kill them? It shouldn't be a big show or anything, but prisoners on death row need to be executed and stop wasting the taxpayers' money and stop wasting our time. We don't need released murderers back into society. Like, if the guy murders someone because the dude's messing with someone's kid, that's a whole different story. But if you go out and murder someone for armed robbery or just because you can or you want to, you need to be executed. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And we also got, with the murderers, there's other different ways of doing it. They talk about lethal injection costing too much money. Well, we don't have to do the lethal injection. So as a society, we need to make a stand to get these people out of this world. Why do we keep conforming to their needs or what they want? Why don't we take a stand? Hey, you kill someone's family, guess what? You're going to pay the price now. And that's called paying the price for committing the crime. It's called justice. People with DUIs who are still driving on suspended license. Well, we can take their cars away, and then they don't get their car back till the suspension over with. For instance, my aunt was killed about 3 years ago. She was riding with her boyfriend who had 5 DUIs, 3 in a year. That year, she died. Well, there's some incident happened in the van. Only 3 people know what really happened. I'm not one of those people. But if this guy would have never been driving, would my aunt still be alive today? And this guy was drunk when the incident happened. And yet, he didn't get punished for it again. That would have made his 4th DUI that year. So obviously, he's a repeat offender. So a repeat offender, there needs to be some kind of justice so the family feels better about it. Then you got other societies, such as Middle Eastern societies. You rob someone, you're a thief, you get your hand cut off. You kill someone, you get hung in public. You rape someone or mess with any kind of children, you get stoned. It sets an example for people to follow. Finally, we'll discuss prisoners' inability to adapt in prison before they're released. Prisoners should have to adapt in a controlled environment before they are released. They have different types of programs for substance abusers, for alcohol-related incidents, from wife beaters, that they can get help while they're in prison. If you can't control yourself in a controlled environment, how are you going to control yourself in society? You're just going to be a nuisance again. You're going to be right back in jail for the same thing. So as society, we need to stand up and make sure this happens. They need to stop letting them off for good behavior when the people are messing up. For example, that same article that Thornberger wrote, He wrote that Dixon, while he was in prison, threw lighter fluid on a guy and lit him on fire. But yet they still release this guy from prison? I mean, eventually you got to take a stand. A guy like that does not need to be released. You murder someone, you throw lighter fluid and try to burn someone to death? That ain't the type of people we need in our society today. So it's about time that they start meaning the crimes that they commit and start serving their sentence fully and be able to adapt before they're released. Now I've told you about how stricter punishment, stricter penalties and following on with the sentences would help aid society. I went through the old cliche of punishment should fit the crime, and they should have to adapt before they are released from prison. It's our generation now. It's our time to shine. It's time that we step up for the generation and make sure that we, as society, make sure society will be safer for the next generation. Thank you. Have a good day.